Coming off a night where Clayton Kershaw has his 3,000th strikeout. Who better to give us some context than a guy who, elite in terms of all sports. Clutch pitchers, clutch players in the history of sport. Curt Schilling joins us, World Series champion. He joins us now on the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. Curt, 3,000 strikeouts in a 17-year storied career in which he's been a part of 2 World Series championships. What does the 3,000 strikeouts signify to you watching Clayton Kershaw work last night?
You know what? First ballot Hall of Fame human being, Clayton is. I remember, God, I can't remember much of it, but I remember him when the talk about him coming up, and because it was right, our career paths didn't really cross. But he was advertised. He did some stuff for a period of time that you look for in greatness, and he continued. I mean, his postseason struggles aside, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Okay, but it's interesting. It's unique, right? You weren't a bad pitcher in the regular season. You were very good. He was dominant in the regular season, but there were struggles in the postseason. You're most known for your postseason success. Okay,
right.
So what's the reality to how fair is that? Because a Clayton Kershaw defender will say, well, limited sample size, although he's been in a bunch, and they'll say it was later innings and he wore down because he pitched so much in the regular season. Yeah. What's the reality to it as somebody who's kind of the opposite, no more for the postseason than the regular season?
Well, you know what? I don't. You're either good or not in October. There is no in between. And it's as much a mindset as anything, from a workload perspective. You could come up with 100 excuses as to why someone doesn't succeed in October, and there's probably truth to 90 of them in some semblance or some sense. Some guys just aren't built for October. And, you play to win the ring. So that was why I think most of us played. He's got 2. He just hasn't had his October moments, but I don't think it takes away from a Hall of Fame career.
Here's something interesting. I don't know if you know this. Coming into last night, he had the exact same number of wins as you had. And I say that because,
really?
Again, 216.
Interesting.
216. Yeah. This feels like an answer I know, but will we ever have another 300-game winner?
No. Not right now. Not right now. I've been doing some work, pre-draft work, and I'm thinking about stepping back into the game on the pitching side of things, because pitching in the big leagues, pitching across baseball and amateur is broken. It's horribly broken, and it needs to be fixed. There needs to be, I say this term loosely, but there needs to be a Moneyball sort of renaissance with pitching. The hunt for velocity has destroyed the art. And that's, that's why you're seeing the massive increase in arm injuries, and all the things that go with that, and organizations. I did some work on this draft, and I'm not going to name names because these kids are coming up to one of the most special days in their lives. But if I'm a major league team, there are 2 or 3, at least 2 guys I wouldn't touch with your first-round pick, and they're going to go in the first round. One of them is probably going to go very high, and it's just not physically possible for these guys to be healthy 5-6 years from now. I mean, it just, if you look down the sport, you go back and watch video and history. Guys that throw like these guys throw don't last. They never have, and they never will, and it's not their fault. But pitching is broken in baseball right now, and that's why your Scoobals stand out beyond. That's why Jacob deGrom was set to be maybe the best pitcher that ever lived if he hadn't gotten hurt. He was Greg Maddux at 98, right? I mean, he's Pedro at 98. I mean, it just. But, again, it's broken. It's horribly broken. And the clinics that are teaching these guys to throw hard at the cost of being a pitcher is one of the big reasons.
The podcast is called The Complete Game. you need to watch it on YouTube. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Just subscribe to that channel. Curt Schilling is our guest. Of course, that's his podcast. He joins us now on the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. We talk about young pitchers, and last night I'm watching Jacob Misowski, who of course is the rookie with the Brewers, who before last night hadn't been touched, right? And then he had just one inning where infield hit, could have been a potential out, could have got him out of the inning. He doesn't, gives up a home run, and then a back-to-back. Okay, so you break this stuff down. His velo was a little down last night. Is Misowski, is he a guy here to stay, or is he a guy that I don't think that lasts?
I like him better than I like a lot of young guys. A couple episodes ago, I talked about him. There's a much more polished delivery than a lot of these other guys I'm talking about, especially for his age. The problem is he's not ready for the big leagues. I don't care about the stuff. He hasn't back, and you know, I know I sound archaic and I sound like the old guy, get off my lawn guy, but back in the day, you went through the minor leagues by mastering the level you were at and moving on.
Sure.
Right? And each level is a little bit more effort. Each level is a little bit mentally and physically harder, and there's a gradual process to getting to the big leagues. And I use my personal analogy. When I got to the big leagues, I made my debut, had a decent start, went 7 innings, and then I got my ass handed to me for 3 straight games. And I drove home that winter, and the thing I tell everybody, it was a seminal moment in my career because I drove from Baltimore to Phoenix, Arizona, and during the drive, I had an epiphany, and it was, hey, you know what? I'm not ready, but I can do this. And that came from having 500, 600, 700 innings in the minor leagues. I had a couple 200-inning seasons in the minor leagues. I threw 8 or 9 complete games in a couple different minor league seasons. I knew how to pitch in the 8th inning and the 9th inning, and with runners in scoring position. Those are all the things you learn. I learned how to pitch inside in the minor league. None of that. So what I'm saying is I had the toolbox when I got to the big leagues. I just figured out I had to figure out how to use the tools. These guys get to the big leagues. They don't have the toolbox. And I use a guy like Chase Dollander in Colorado. These guys are coming up with 15 AAA innings and 116 minor league innings spread out over 2.5 seasons. There's this enormous rush to get these guys to the big leagues, and I don't understand it. Right? You're the Colorado Rockies. We all know what kind of season they're having, right? I mean, it's misery. What is Chase Dollander learning in the big leagues right now? Because we're alpha guys, right? I mean, we're all alpha athletes. We've always been the best at what we did, where we were. You get to the big leagues, everybody's as good or better than you. You're not in the big leagues as a young pitcher thinking, I'm going to take this start and I'm going to try and learn how to do this. You're taking the ball going, I got to win. And there's no development there. And I said this. I went back and I looked, and this is how I know it's sport-wide. I went back and looked at a couple guys in junior college. These guys were all first-round picks. I looked at them in junior college. I looked at them in college. And I looked at them in the big leagues. They were the exact same pitcher at 23, 24 in the big leagues that they were in junior college, physically, mechanically. People should be fired for that. But the chase for velocity and the money seems to create a sense of haste in promoting guys that shouldn't exist. We'd rather have a guy come up at 22 and have his Tommy John, because most of these guys are on their way to Tommy John or some shoulder problem because of their deliveries. But would you rather have that guy at 22 who knows nothing about the big leagues, bounce around for 3, 4, 5 years, and then become a free agent when he starts to learn how to pitch in the big leagues? Or would you rather have him at 23, 24, as polished as he could be, and then learn that way? You know, the process is so broken right now, and teams are losing, and the sport is losing billions of dollars in IR time to pitchers because of the approach. It's
really, really interesting stuff. And yeah, they want to also get the big league innings quicker to arbitration, right? And they quicker to that big contract.
But you know what the problem is? The only way a kid could be the same pitcher he was in junior college is if you have a minor league system of coaches afraid to coach. Right? Some of these guys come into their first day in rookie ball, you would take them to the bullpen and go, okay, listen, this isn't going to work. You have the foundation, but here's what we need to fix. The problem is that coaches don't want to be the guy that broke the first-round pick. Right? You're talking about 5, 6, 8, what was Skeens, $9 million? No one's going to want to be the guy that maybe broke him or changed him because he throws really hard. And you can't do that. You have to be hands-on with these young men, and you have to make them understand, listen, these guys are getting paid. Think about this. These guys are getting paid $30 million a year to throw 175 innings. Are you kidding me? The 175 innings was like mid-August total. And now it's not. I mean, 35 starts a year, 7 innings of starts, 245 innings. When was the last time anybody even sniffed that?
I probably never. And again, so let me ask you this. Let me get to a couple other things. Curt Schilling joining us. The Complete Game is the podcast. Download it wherever you download podcasts. Of course, you can watch it on YouTube as well. Let's get to the Dodgers. Jason Stewart is my producer. The Dodgers drive him crazy. Not because he doesn't think they're talented, but because it's like they so badly want to be able to do it without a closer, like a designated closer, like here's our guy, right? They want the new era of baseball. It did work last year. Are you a believer?
It doesn't work.
Why?
It's never worked because sabermetricians can't understand that getting the last 3 outs of the game are the hardest 3 outs of the game to get.
Yeah.
They just are. You can like that, dislike that. You can be a fan and say, "Oh, it's different." It's different. And the analogy I've always used is October baseball is like pitching the ninth inning with a 1-run lead every inning. Every hitter in the ninth inning of a close game is approaching the at-bat differently. They just do. Right? And in October, every single hitter, every single at-bat, the hitter's at the plate approaching it like a ninth inning at-bat. They're different outs. I get the whole bring my guy in the highest leverage situation in the 7th inning because they're second and third and I need 2 punch outs and whatever. But probably the biggest culprit in the new phase of pitching are relievers. These guys are just coming and throwing as hard as they want. And if you doubt what I'm saying, just watch an inning. Watch the catcher's glove on fastballs and the fact that you almost have to be Jerry Rice to catch some of these fastballs as opposed to being a big league catcher. Guy set up down and in to throw the ball up and away. Guy sits up down and away, throws the ball middle. Guy swings and misses. Everybody says great pitch. It's just there's metrics that aren't being measured, and they're meaningful from a standpoint of pitching. But getting the last 3, if you remember way back, the Red Sox tried that whole bullpen by committee approach in the early 2000s and failed miserably at it. It's just different. The human psyche is different. And I'm on the mound in the 9th inning. Hell, as a starter when I was on the mound in the 9th inning, I knew those 3 outs were different than the first 24 I'd gotten. As a reliever, that's your whole life. Well, think about this. If it was not that different, then there would be a lot of Trevor Hoffmans and Mariano Rivera's with 600 career saves, right?
Yeah.
But there's not, and there won't be.
There's not. Curt, you're the best, man. It's not just because you have credibility in your opinion, but you also do the work, do the research, and getting us ready for the upcoming MLB draft. This is awesome stuff. Can't wait to talk with you next week. Again,
all right, buddy.
It's The Complete Game. Curt Schilling. Download it and check it out on YouTube. Thanks, Curt.
Take it easy, brother.